Did you know that enemies can turn invisible if you don't have enough crew skills? In third person, if a faraway tank isn't moving or shooting, they'll be invisible if you don't have the keen vision skill upgraded. A stock crew can see tanks up to a kilometer away, but anything farther than that, and you need to upgrade the skill. Speaking of crew skills, Arcade actually gives more crew XP points compared to RB or Sim. The two latter game modes give you roughly 1 point per 100 RP earned in battle, while Arcade gives you 3. You do earn less RP in Arcade, but this can still be useful to grind crew skills. Compared to regular bombs with the same explosive mass, incendiary bombs actually deal more damage to enemy bases. They do take a bit longer to do so though. During a match, you can open the map in your browser. Here you can see information like the map, the kill feed, your vehicle's stats, and so on. If you have multiple monitors, this can be pretty useful. Take a look at your tank's X-ray in the hangar, and you can see how many shells are stored in the first stage ammo stowage. This way, you'll know exactly how many shells to bring into battle. This doesn't work on every tank though, sadly. If you accidentally spawn in without adjusting your ammo, you can open the map and do so during battle. The changes will be applied the next time you spawn in that tank. You can turn off ESS by simply turning off your engine. Something you shouldn't turn off though is this epic game called Raid Shadow Legends. Now I'm sure you all know about Raid, but what I don't know is why you're not playing it. If you've been living under a rock, Raid Shadow Legends is an RPG with hundreds of unique champions to choose from, each with their own set of skills to use in epic PvP and PvE battles, available on mobile and desktop. My favorite champion is my main man Astralon. Not only does he have some cool lore, he's also one hell of a fighter, especially with all this gear. Now's a great time to start your Raid journey, as the game's having its biggest event to date, the Asgard Divide, featuring champions based off of Norse mythology. If you sign up between now and October 23rd and log into the game for 7 days, you'll receive the legendary champion Loki the Deceiver for free. That's like getting a free Abrams for a daily login reward in War Thunder. The other 3 Norse champions include Freya Fateweaver, Thor Feyhammer, and Odin Feyfather, and on top of that, the event also features a limited time dungeon that lets you face fearsome enemies and includes some legendary boss fights. I'll admit, I was a bit reluctant at first, but after jumping into the game myself, I gotta say, I'm hooked. The combat is fun, the gameplay loop is surprisingly addictive, and the graphics are seriously impressive for a mobile game. Here you can see me defeating the final boss after a grueling dungeon campaign, and that feeling of relief and triumph is just way too good. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get epic bonuses through my referral. The people that sign up using my link will immediately get a huge starter pack containing an epic champion, the Grizzled Jarl from the Dwarves faction. If you reach level 15, you'll also get the epic Knight Errant from the Bannerlords faction as well. Make sure to join me in the SK Dodgers clan once you do sign up. Thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Now, where were we? You can keep track of ongoing achievements by clicking onto favorites. Doing so will display it in your hangar, and you can track your progress as well. If your tank has a secondary weapon like an extra cannon or coax machine gun, you can set a keybind to take control of it. This can be quite useful against aircraft. Speaking of machine guns, if you're about to shoot a tank but don't know where its weak points are, shoot a couple machine gun rounds and take a look at the X-ray damage screen. That'll show where stuff like ammo racks and crew members are. One of the most crucial features in ground battles are the squad markers. If you set a keybind for it, you can put down a marker on the map for your squad mates. Afterwards, you can follow this up with a ping for all your teammates, and this way you'll have an easy method of pinpointing where an enemy is. Now that you know the position, time to figure out the range. We all know about the rangefinder, but what if they're too far away? In that case, you can use the map to find the range. See that number on the bottom right? That tells you how big each line on the map is. Simply put a squad marker on the enemy position, count the lines between you and them, and line up the shot. What if they're standing diagonally from you? Well, bring out a calculator and use the Pythagorean theorem. First count the x-axis squared, then the y-axis squared, add them up, take the root, and... oh. Well, if you can't be bothered to do all that, you can also use the squad marker to figure out where to fire your artillery. If the enemy is close by though, you can instead press the indicator button on the bottom and use your third-person camera. Helicopters can repair and rearm without fully landing. While we're on the topic, helicopters and planes can cap strategic zones in ground battles. Although it's unconventional and very risky, it can turn the tide of a battle.
Another zone captured, we have the advantage.
If you're in a plane with no countermeasures but access to missiles or rockets, you can use them in head-on engagements to confuse the enemy missile.
Launch.
This can also be done in a ground vehicle. And now for some grinding tips. Researching a vehicle with the vehicle that comes before it in the tech tree will give you a 10% boost to RP gain. And if you finish a tier of modifications with any vehicle, you'll instantly get 20% of their total RP cost refunded to research another vehicle. For top tier, this can potentially mean tens of thousands of RP, so keep that in mind. If you're looking to practice your combat skills, custom battles are a great way to do so. To create one, simply go into the game mode selector, click on custom battles, create a session, pick a map, tinker with the settings, and hop in. This lets you make your own sandbox with AI opponents to fight with, and there are no spawn points, repair costs, or anything like that, so feel free to practice all you like. It's especially useful for anti-air and close air support. Alternatively, if you want to practice your aerial skills, check out the mission editor. To access it, pick a plane, click on test flight, and at the bottom left, click on mission editor. There are plenty of options to choose from, like the map, type of mission, your enemies, and so on. It's a great place to practice aiming, dogfighting, etc. Let's talk camouflage. If you're too broke to buy bushes or skins, here's what you can do. Pick a decal of your choosing, scale it all the way up, and make sure to make it two-sided. If you do it just right, you can have a makeshift desert or winter skin. If you do have an official skin though, you can change the scale and rotation of it to make it more effective, or just to make it look cooler. I prefer form over function. In the options, you can find a setting to disable autopilot while in gunner or bomber view. Just make sure not to crash into the ground while you're busy. You can figure out whether you're in an up tier or down tier by looking at the SP costs of your lineup. So let's say the highest BR vehicle in your lineup is at 5.7. If your SP costs look like this, that means you're in a full up tier, meaning you'll be facing tanks anywhere between 5.7 and 6.7. In this example though, the SP costs are more expensive, meaning you'll face tanks between 5.3 and 6.3, so only a partial up tier. I've left a table containing all the SP costs in the description, so check it out if you're interested. In Ground Arcade, if you lock onto an enemy plane and hold right click on your mouse, you can automatically track where the plane is going, which can make leading a lot easier. Speaking of anti-air, one of the most useful voice commands in the game is Air Alert. If there's an enemy plane on your screen, using this command will give all your teammates the enemy's azimuth and distance, which gives friendly SPAAs and fighters a target to take down. Disabling grass in your scope and reducing grass and tree render range will give you a supreme advantage over enemies who have them enabled. This gives you both much better visibility and also increases your frame rate. Likewise, you can lower your own engine volume in the settings as well. This makes it much easier to hear enemies lurking about. Harriers can use thrust vectoring to make sharper turns, which can help alleviate their awful turn rates. In AirRB, if you land on an airfield and J out, you can change your loadout mid-battle. You have to be fully repaired and rearmed for it to work though, otherwise you'll be sent back to hangar. It also does not work in Ground RB. If someone's spamming their radio, you can simply turn off their voice commands by right-clicking on their name and clicking on Disable Radio. Instead of moving your scope, you can set your mouse wheel to sight distance control. This way, you can stay locked in on a target without having to move your gun. Now it's time for some rangefinder tips and tricks. If you're expecting enemies to be at a certain spot, rangefind things that are close to where you'll be shooting. That way, you'll have the distance ready whenever they decide to pop out. When you rangefind or spot an enemy tank, your crew members will occasionally tell you how far away they are, even before the rangefinding is complete.
Hey, 1 o'clock, Ray, 2000.
The rangefinder can be used for other things besides finding ranges. For example, if you want to annoy enemy helicopters, you can spam your laser rangefinder on them. They'll get bombarded with radar warnings, and they'll think someone's trying to kill them. Another method is in ground sim. If you're unsure whether a tank is friendly or not, simply use your rangefinder on them. You have to keep your scope on the target with nothing in between for it to work though. Speaking of sim, you can zoom out further in plane cockpits. For the 3 people that play air sim, this can be pretty nifty. If you want to know how many tanks someone has scouted, hover over their assists. It'll show how many tanks were destroyed after they scouted them. If you're running really low on server lions, there are a couple of things you can do, like using stock ammo, turning off automatic repairs, automatic purchase of ammo and crew replenishment, modifications, and lastly your computer or console. In the test drive, you can set the modification status to current or reference. Current means the modifications you currently own, while reference means all the modifications are enabled. This way, you can see how a tank will perform once you spade it. For some reason though, it doesn't enable tank shell modifications. Once again, don't forget to check out Raid Shadow Legends and use my link to receive your free rewards today.